Hi, my name is Nick, and this is a brief summary of the Irish potato famine. The potato was introduced to Ireland in the 1850s, quickly becoming a popular food item with the working class and the poor, particularly farm laborers. Potatoes require little maintenance compared to traditional grain crops, so it was perfect for those who might not have had time to maintain a full field of wheat or oats. Contrary to popular belief, though, potatoes weren't the only food grown in Ireland, but almost half of all people in Ireland depended on them. Farmers planted other things, like various cereal grains and even turnips, in addition to raising livestock and farming dairy, but these foods were seldom eaten by those who grew them, or even the Irish themselves. Instead, they were sold in markets or exported to England for money. Now the now the potato harvest, of 1845 was ruined by late blight, a type of plant disease that turns potatoes and tomatoes into slimy, inedible mush. It spreads best in cold, humid weather, and Ireland was quite rainy in the month prior to the outbreak. You see, what made the blight spread so easily, other than the weather, was that Ireland only had one main potato they planted, that was the Irish lumper. Potatoes in Ireland were replanted, so the vast amount of genetically identical plants let late blight just spread like wildfire. Over one third of the entire potato harvest that year, was ruined, and some had no potatoes at all. Much of the land, pardon me, much of the land in Ireland was owned by landlords, many of whom were wealthy English Protestants, and the Irish needed all the money they had to pay their often outrageous rates for rent. When the blight struck, landlords were fearful that the livestock and grains the farmers and laborers grew would be eaten instead of sold for money to pay the rent. So they sent people and confiscated everything they had grown for compensation. This left many with no other option but to join a workhouse. Houses were large facilities that housed those that otherwise couldn't find work. Pardon me. Whether they were old, injured, sick, or unemployed. Workhouses also gave food and shelter to those who might not have had it. Workhouses, however, were feared throughout Ireland due to their terrible, often inhumane living conditions, and were avoided by all means necessary. The blight struck again in the years following, even harder than the worst, even worse than the year before. Jeez. With little help from the English government. It's a long and somewhat complicated story, and I'm running out of time to talk about this. But I've written up a paper. It's a little long, but it details everything I know so far about the famine. And it's not quite complete yet, but if you're interested in learning more about the complicated situation here and all the parts that play into it, there's going to be a link in the description. So, thank you.